Hi, I'm Scott, and welcome to my shop. And today we're going to make a Christmas tree. Alright, so here's our piece of maple. I got it all rounded up on the lathe, and then what I'm going to do is lay out where I want everything to be, just using a pencil. I'm just making some rough measurements. So this will be the main part of the tree. This will be the trunk and the base. I'll cut a tenon down here, and there'll be a little ball at the top. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to true up this edge, and then I'm going to cut a tenon, and I'm going to put this in the chuck, just so I can get this piece cut down to the right size. To get this tenon dovetailed to go into the chuck, I'm going to use a skew. Alright, now that we got the piece mounted in the chuck, I'm going to use a parting tool, and I'm going to get rid of all this excess over here. Alright, now that we have this piece cut down to the right size, what I'm going to do is I'm going to taper from this line, which is going to be the base of the tree, out to the top. I'm going to taper it down like a cone. Okay, so you see we've got this tapered down into a cone, and I hope that knot doesn't become a problem later. Alright, so we've got that tapered down into a cone. A little bit of that's going to have to wind up being the ball at the top, so let's kind of mark that. Alright, so that's going to have to taper down a little bit deeper. Okay, I think I have that tapered pretty much the way I want. The width of this top really doesn't matter. You got to just leave it wide enough so it has enough strength to do the offset turning. But other than that, it really doesn't matter. It's pretty much up to you. I'm going to leave this pretty much as it is, and we're going to finish up the rest of this when it's up between centers. But now we have to mark up the blank for the offset turning. Okay, you can see the bottom of the piece, and you can see the center point. Okay, and you can see I've actually drew a line through the center point so it intersects this circle that was created by the drive center. Okay? Then you get the dividers are marked up for the radius. Okay? And you can see I used a center punch and I marked it out with a Sharpie and gave myself another center point. Alright, so the other two are the hard ones, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the divider, which is marked for the radius, and we're going to hold it on the edge of the circle, and we're going to swing the divider out, and where it intersects, wow, focus please. Alright, there we go. And so where it intersects that circle is where the next point should go. Alright, and then we'll do the same thing for the other side, and where it intersects that circle will be where the third point should go. Okay, so if I did this right, those points should be all about the same distance apart, and the circle should be divided up into thirds. And you can see I've marked the points 1, 2, and 3, and that's just for me as a reminder later when I'm going through the progression. Alright, so I got the piece back mounted between centers again, and what you're going to see is I'm going to actually mark a line every 1/4 inch. And we're going to mark out the lines for where the cuts are going to go to make up the limbs of the tree. Alright, so the next step is going to be actually cutting all these cuts that make up the limbs of the tree. And to do that, I'm going to use a point tool. Alright, so to cut these lines, we're going to have to offset this piece. Alright, so we're going to leave the top in the live center, and we're going to relocate from the center point over to point number 1 on the drive center. I don't know how well that came up on the camera, but the drive center is now into the new point number 1. Okay? And now you can see the piece is offset. Okay, so we're going to cut these lines, and we're going to start with the first line and then do every 3rd line while we're in position number 1. And then when we move to position 2, we're going to do the 2nd line and then every 3rd line after that. And then we're going to go to position 3 and do that, the 3rd line, and then every 3rd line after that. So we're basically alternating every 3rd line depending on what position that we're in. Okay, so I'm going to use this point tool. I got it all sharpened up. Alright, let's do it. Okay, so you can see the cut that was made there, and that actually came out nice and clean. Okay, so you can see I did every 3rd one. Now that we have it done in position 1, we're just going to move it progressively through position 2 and position 3 and do all the cuts. Okay, so all the cuts are done. We're going to sand it up a little bit, and we're going to finish up the shaping. We're going to put it back between the original 2 centers to finish up the piece. Okay, so we have the lines sanded off so they're not distracting, and you can see how all those cuts went on there. It actually turned out really good. And that really wasn't as big of a problem as I thought it was going to be. Okay, so the last things we have to do, we have to turn this into a ball. We got to form the base and the trunk. And then we need to part it off. And to part it off, we're going to put it back in the chuck. So let's do the rest of that stuff and then get it back in the chuck and finish it up. Okay, so we have the trunk done, we have the base done, we have the ball mostly done, and we're going to put this back in the chuck so we can finish up the top and then part this off. time for some sanding, and then we'll part it off.